Together as we welcome Rufai Mustapha as he gives his talk on optimizing your JavaScript code for speed. Rufai Mustapha is a software engineer who loves teaching. So I guess we're going to be enjoying this session today. Hello, where is Rufai Mustapha? Okay. Please let's keep clapping till he comes to the stage. Please. Keep clapping till he comes to the stage. Keep clapping, keep clapping, keep clapping. Thank you very much. Keep clapping, keep clapping. Thank you, thank you. Don't get tired. Thank you, everyone.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Rufai Mustapha. Um, my talk today is around improving um, the speed of your web application, essentially helping you to get your users to stick to your application and not run away. We will be talking about some interesting tricks and ideas that you can play around with to help your application stick together. Um, the reason why it is need for speed is because we want your application to be blazing fast to allow performance to be the first thing you are thinking about as you are thinking about building for your users. Yeah, my name is Rufai. I am a software engineer. I have a couple of years of experience doing this. Um, I, I am also a technical instructor. You may have seen some of my courses on LinkedIn Learning, Pluralsight, etc., like that. Yeah, that's what I do. So let's get right to it. So today, our conversation, it's really a conversation because we'll be discussing, boils down to three things. Why do we need to improve the performance of our code? This aspect of our conversation would discuss why your users would run away from you and what you need to do to attract them, to keep them on your application, right? Then we'll discuss some of the reasons why these things happen and how you as the developer can track these steps to ensure that before they happen, you have nipped them in the bud, right? Then we'll look at some performance things, discuss some code, and take some questions. All right, so let's start out. When you visit the website, any website, at what point do you run away from that website if it doesn't load as fast as you want, right? Is it the impatient category that you belong to, or you belong to the curious guy that is waiting patiently for 5 seconds before you run away? Or they have to frustrate you like a Punch newspaper or Vanguard with a lot of ads, a lot of things before you now decide, oh, actually, this is not what I want to go to another place. So, because typically we live in an age where attention is the key. Attention is what is being sold and what is being retained, right? TikTok, Twitter, social media, essentially, and every other platforms that you go to. Attention, your attention is what turns to gold for them. And the amount of attention they can get from you, the amount of time they can get out of your hand is going to determine how much money they can make, how much they can sell themselves to potential users, right? So the question is, as a developer, you are tasked with Punch newspaper, you are tasked with Vanguard newspaper. The question is, how do you ensure that this site goes from loading in 15 minutes to loading in less than 1 second, right? What can you give them? What kind of tricks can you give them So before I proceed, who wants to share? Tell me something. Yeah. Stop using TypeScript. TypeScript has nothing to do with this. Yeah? Okay, my question is, you are in charge of Punch newspaper, Vanguard newspaper, right? The typical behavior of these newspapers is, once you load them, or Yahoo Finance, right? The typical behavior is, once you load them, you are going to be presented with advertisements, right? Pop-ups, up and down. You are going to be presented with GDPRs, right? At the bottom, that ask you to accept cookies, right? And if you were a news page, right, there will be a section that will be loading video, and it will autoplay, right? Which means it is distracting you from the actual thing that you are coming to the site to do, right? So immediately you are irritated, right, by that site in the first few seconds, right? My question to you is, what kind of approach would you try to reduce that irritation for your potential and esteemed users? How do you know what makes sense to them? Yeah. Okay. Okay. But your company needs money. They will not pay you salary. Oh. Okay. So it's a game, right? And then you have to find the balance, right, between getting money for the company, right, and you satisfying your users, retaining them, and giving them the best user experience that you can possibly provide them, right? Okay, cool. That is one, and let's hold this. The second thing is, you may have visited sites where you are forced, one way or the other, to open the sites by yourself with your own hands. And unloading the site, it crashed, right? Let's go first. Let me show you something. Okay, so here is Mozilla's crashing. And what crashed it is myself. I was the one that intentionally did it. So let me show you this site. Currently, it is not going to crash. So this is it, showing you that it is not crashing. Nothing is happening, right? So let me switch here a moment to run out. Memory, reload this, save this. Let's come back to here and let's reload this. So now, once you see now, the first indication of this is when you come here, you can see it is just reloading. Nothing is happening. It has not finished loading. So you are wondering what is happening and why it has not finished loading. At the end of the, one has stopped it. It is doing something that it is going to make it to crash now. The next thing it is going to do now, I want to actually show you the inspector. Where is my inspector? Okay, so in a moment now, the entire thing is supposed to crash, and my entire presentation is supposed to stop. So while we are waiting for it to crash, let me just show you the code that is going to cause all this mess. So here, what we have here is a very interesting thing. Let's discuss it together. Here, so who wants to help us to read this? Anyone wants to try? Okay.
So we have a function
Yeah.
called consume memory.
Okay.
Then we move down to line 13 where we call the function.
Okay.
Then the function then executes.
Okay.
In the function, there's a variable named memory hog,
Okay.
which has a value of an array. Then the next line, we have a for loop.
Okay.
Where it's written over, is that 10,000?
100,000.
100,000. So we're iterating over 100,000 items, and then for each iteration, we are pushing an array, new array with of another 10,000 items, joining it with the string x into the memory hub array, and then we are logging the current array. I'm doing that over to 100.
Okay.
So definitely,
So you are wondering, what is the entire purpose of this? The only goal of this is to crash my system, nothing else. That is the only way it is designed. And that is why this guy and that guy are currently reloading like this. So in a moment, it's supposed to crash. So the idea is, when you look at this, right, we all understand by ourselves that there is something terribly wrong here, right? Something is terribly wrong, right? Because you are creating resources. You are adding the resources by adding it to the array that we have here, right? And as we continuously add to the resources, we are not considering how much of that resource can the browser handle at that particular time, right? Until what we call memory leak happen, where there is enough resource that is being generated, it has completely filled our memory space, and we still have more resource that we are generating, right? Why not releasing the current one that we are taking space of, right? So essentially, everything will crash. Now, I don't know how to stop this. Okay, let's go. Wait. I know. I want it to actually crash. Just chill. So, let's go. So, with the example I've just shown you, we have seen that our code that we write has a very big impact to make in the kind of user experience that we can give our users, right? In the kind of ways our users are going to experience our application, right? And it is important for us as the developer, as you are looking at how you are going to help your users to use your application, to ensure that as you are writing and as you are thinking about performance, right, you are also thinking about every other thing that is happening in that particular space. So, if we bring it back to Nigeria, a typical thing that would happen is when you are writing a very big exam, JAM, WAEC, that is CBT these days, right? And they are forcing you to use a particular browser. They will say only use Chrome, don't use Firefox, don't use Opera, right? Because it is built for that particular system, for that particular browser, right? But do they also take account of the nature of the browser and the version of the browsers that you are also using, right? Because Chrome and its family of browsers are typically called evergreen browsers, in that they update themselves when the new updates exist, right? Do our code that we are writing currently, do they take consideration of these browsers and the kind of systems that are available for them, right? So let's go. What is fast and what is slow? When you're writing your code, you want to consider how to benchmark yourself, how to consider if your code actually does what it does, and in the way you need it to do what it needs to do. So let's go back here. So this guy, I am going to stop it for now. This is Yahoo Finance. And what I want to show you right now, I hope you can see this, is that I want to profile Yahoo Finance to be able to see, so let me reload now, to be able to see at what point do people get frustrated with this application and run away. And why the developers, right, and you as the web developer, right, why you need to consider this as a very important data point for you to make decisions. Okay, so I've stopped it now. The profiler is generating the first few seconds that people come to use this application, right? At the top here, we are going to see a couple of screenshots. You can see here, we have a combination of about 24 seconds of the first few times that this application. So you can see the screenshot from here to here, which describes here the first 8 seconds of our application. This guy, go away. Okay, so here, let me expand this, give me a second. Aha, very good. So here now we are down to the nearest milliseconds, right? It is easy and easier for us to see that immediately one loads this page, right? You are immediately presented with something. It is not empty, right? Which implies that it is giving you hope as an end user that something is loading. You are presented with data or content immediately. And after a while, everything will continuously load until it ends. And you can then be able to finish loading your page. Now, let's contrast this, right, with another page where they delay the content until the end, right? So let's try that with here. So there is Escalator. No, am I on Escalator? No, I need Escalator. Okay, so we have Escalator here, which is, so before I proceed, who can tell me the significant difference between our Escalator here versus the Yahoo Finance that we just checked out? Yeah, go for it. Okay, so now I have to ask, what is a web application? What is a website? Okay, you have mic.
So like I said, Escalator feels like
Go for it.
Escalator feels like a web app, which
Okay.
is an SPA.
Okay.
Right? And Yahoo Finance feels like a normal website, which can be like an MPA. Normal website is an MPA, right?
Who wants to? Any
It
other
doesn't
person
have to
wants
be
to try?
correct. It's just my opinion.
No,
What the
broad
fuck?
idea is good. Broad idea is good. Another person wants to try. Any other person? Yeah, now. I can see somebody at the back. Yeah, now.
Yeah, I think for the Yahoo Finance, there are a lot of API calls,
Okay.
but for Scalidro, essentially, looks like it works offline, and there's no data transfer between the client and the server. Just
Yeah. So a significant difference is this is a standalone application. As I said, an SPA, right? And it doesn't make much calls to its server, right? So this forces it because immediately it finishes loading. By its nature, it has to completely load its services and modules, right? For it to be usable to its users, right? Unlike Yahoo Finance, where one or two content can be presented to you so that you can see something while they are preparing the other details for you to use, right? So these are significant difference. Now, if you come back here to our profiler here, you will see, unlike Yahoo Finance, for the first 22 seconds, there is nothing presented to you, right? Which implies that you need to be patient or you have to run away, right? This same behavior is what you are going to see if you are using Figma or if you are using another heavy Canva, right? If you are using another SPA kind of application, right? But you have to ensure that your users, you are giving them a visual feedback, something they can see and know that this thing is loading, right? It is not that it has hanged or like our friend here, right? You can still see this guy is still loading, right? It is not giving me hope, right? Except, so it is not giving me hope, right? Except you have given yourself hope by yourself, right? Normally, a typical user should have run away from here, Ah. Okay, cool. Let me just close this. Let's go. So we are able to contrast a content website, a content page versus an SPA, right? And the kind of data that you need to present visually to them and your users to be able to hold them in place before they run away or before they get frustrated, right? So let's look at some considerations that we may look at, right, to understand how to work and how to use our tools. So some of the tools that we are going to look at, one of them we have seen, which is a memory profiler. This is existing in all your typical web browsers, right? The easiest way is just to go to your web developer tools. You will find your web browser there, right? The other thing you may want to look at and you may want to confirm is your network request and what you are pulling, right? So if you come back here, it is not in my web profiler here, but if I come back here to YouTube, we are all familiar with YouTube. So if you come here, and then I open my tool. Where is the guy? Okay, my tool here. And then I have my network guy here. Now let's clear everything so that we are starting afresh, right? So if we reload this now, typically, what you are going to see is the content that is being requested by this browser at this particular time. About 10 years ago, there used to be an interesting security hack for each of our web browsers and our web pages. Now, what this guy did, his name is Feroz. He was an MIT student. And at that time, each web page has 100 MB that is attached to it, which implies that once the 100 MB is filled, right, you can no longer load any other content on that page except you close it, right? Now they have given you unlimited. You can do anything you want to do now, right? But at that time, it is unlimited. So what this guy did, he bought a domain name, feroz.com. Now, subdomains are unlimited, are infinity. You can have a.feroz.com, b.feroz.com, c until z, then you start again, AA, BB, CC, right? So what does this guy do? He starts generating subdomains. And then anybody that opens feroz.com, it will automatically open a new page. That's easy now. You can use anchor tag, open a new page, _blank, right? Then it will open a subdomain on that one. And then on that subdomain, it will open a new page and open a subdomain on that page again, right? Until not just your browser that will now hang, your system will be filled up. And if you have one terabyte, it will be filled up in less than 5 minutes, right? By opening just feroz.com. They have patched it now. You will not experience that thing now. They have solved it now. But in that time, it was a very interesting thing. And the way we are able to solve it now is by having this network request that we can now be able to see what is this guy fetching, right, at each point, right? And we can know where the bottleneck is. What is the large file that is stopping us or our page from loading, right? And what is the lower file that we need to ignore or to do the CDN for, right? Catch it away from our file and call it after the main pages and the main content has finished loading, right? So that is what this place is for and the benefit you can get from this. All right, let's get right to it. So we have looked at memory profiling, we have looked at network request, let's look at consideration for SEOs and why SEO is a very important part of optimizing or need to optimize your web page. There was a time we were building a very interesting product. You may be familiar with it. It's called Disha. So Disha allows you to create profile for content creators. You can create your profile and then you can add links. So if you're a photographer, then you can add links to your pictures, links to your Twitter, Instagram, like Linktree that you have for Instagram today, right? Yeah, we have very interesting product like that. So The thing was, the back end is Laravel, and the front end is Vue, right? And we need to fetch, so the front end, at that particular point, is supposed to be a consumer application for millions of users. So we needed SEO. We needed that when you search the name of somebody, Disha profile is the first thing that comes up, right? Is the first thing that comes up. So now our issue is all the data is on the database. We don't want everything on the home page. We don't want everything on the front end at once, right? So consideration is, should we send everything? Should we send our data about that user, their videos, their pictures, no matter how large it is, and all the customizations that they did on our own site? Should we send all those from this database to the front end, right? And then load, which will chase them away, right? Before they can access the content. Or should we send it in bits, right? Send them a picture first, or send the name first, right? After the name, they can see the name, right? Then send the picture, then send the customization, right? Etc. like that. And then we can now be sending whatever other, every package that we need to send from the back end to the front end, right? This denotes or demonstrates the importance of your data and how you present it to your users, right? To not make them frustrated, right? As they are using your product, right? And the essential thing is, as much as you are building, and as much as this is just one way for doing SEO, there are many considerations to use to do SEO. As much as you are building, and as much as you want to build your SEO tags, right? It is very important that you consider how much data you are transferring from your end users, from your server to your browsers for rendering at every point in time, right? All right, so how do we do this? Let's look at garbage collection. Who is familiar with the idea of garbage collection? Anyone? Yes? You are familiar. You want to say something? You want to say something?
I think garbage collection is a way where I learned garbage collection when I was trying to learn C.
Yeah.
It's a way that I think the programming language gets rid of unused variables and objects
Yeah.
that are no longer being called in the stack.
You're on track. Any other person? Yeah. Another person? Okay.
All right. Oh, one more question. All right, Mustapha, Rufai, thank you so much. That was an amazing session. Oh my God. If you have more questions, please reach out to Rufai personally to ask your question or ask him on Twitter. Thank you so much, Rufai, once again. That